All right, so in the last couple of weeks, I've had a lot of questions. People have female ball pythons and they're looking for a male. And they ask me, hey, I have this purple passion or maybe a het pied or het clown. What should I buy to pair up with my female ball python? And let me tell you that in some cases it is a really tough question. It really depends on a lot of different factors, and I'm going to kind of go through some of the logistics and the different things you really want to think about when you're about to buy another snake to pair up with your females. And one of the reasons is because today I'm actually going to buy another ball python. And let me tell you, I haven't bought a ball python probably in a couple of years, investing in a different project to jump into. So I would say probably number one is you definitely want to have a quarantine area to keep your new ball python. And I actually never had one up until now. The way I got into it is I bought a whole bunch of snakes pretty much in a short period of time, and then I just produced my own ball pythons from there. I didn't really bring new ball pythons into my collection. Now that I'm thinking about bringing one in, you definitely want to set up a separate quarantine area. So it'll be like maybe a small rack, maybe 1 or 2 tubs. Put it in a separate room in the house. In this case, I'm going to put it 2 levels up in a spare bedroom and keep it really completely away from this room. You definitely want to quarantine your animals. And you know, as far as how long to keep them there, I would say you probably want to do at least 3 or 4 weeks to make sure at least that they don't have any mites coming into your collection. So that's one thing to think about. The other thing to think about is what you have kind of going on in your collection. So for example, I was kind of thinking ahead on this project a couple years ahead. So what I did is I bought some young clown ball pythons. One is a regular clown female, the other is a lesser clown female. As a matter of fact, I paired up my straight clown female with my albino pied. She laid some eggs. I'm going to get some triple hets, but she's eating really well, so I'm thinking I could pair up again this year. And the other one was, you know, I kind of had this idea of I wanted to buy the females first, sit on the females for a couple years, and then as they mature and they get ready to breed, then I could buy a more higher end male. And usually the prices come down year after year after year. So now that it's a couple years later that I've had these snakes, they're getting you know, ready, pretty much the size to breed, I can invest in a male that, you know, 2-3 years ago it would have cost me a lot more than, you know, it would have, you know, if I was to buy it today. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking I want to buy a male, I want to buy a clown, so that it really, you know, cuts down on what I really want to invest in. And the other thing you can think about is if you don't really have a lot of money, you can invest in one of the hets. Since this is a recessive gene, you could get like a het clown with some other genes. And in this case, I decided, you know, I sold quite a few hatchlings this year, so I actually have some money that I can reinvest in a project like this. I'm kind of like recycling my money in the ball python business, so it's a little bit easier for me to invest pretty heavily versus if you're jumping in from the beginning, you don't have any real money coming in and you're trying to come up with the money to buy another snake. That is always harder. Your budget is probably not as good as if you were kind of in the middle and you were making money from your ball pythons. So I know I want a clown, I know I want a male. The other thing I always want to think about when I'm bringing snakes into my collection, something new, is what I want to do is I want to add at least one gene that I don't have in my collection. So you're always thinking, all right, I want to take my clown and I want to breed it with my female clowns. That's kind of a small scale kind of a mindset. What you really want to do is expand your mindset to further years of breeding or multiple snakes. So I can actually breed the clown to my clowns and get a whole clutch of clowns, which is pretty cool. I actually want to hold some of those back and really kind of increase my I don't know what this snake is doing. I really want to increase kind of my clown project. I want to get into it a little bit heavier and kind of get out of the codominant stuff, a little bit more into the recessive stuff. So I'm kind of thinking about that. But you also, you know, every time I buy a new snake, I want to bring a new gene into the room so I can breed it to other snakes and mix it with some other combos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at Morph Market and kind of go through some of the possibilities that I could buy for a clown male. And I want something, you know, if it's not old enough to breed this fall, probably I could breed it next year. So I'm not really in a rush to buy something that's older and mature. I'd rather get something with the right genes in the mix instead of really trying to rush the project. The other thing you have to think about is if you're buying into a new gene. So for example, like when I bought this bamboo was like 3 times as expensive as all the other bamboos on Morph Market, and it was because I wanted a really strong breeder. And if you look, this is Bobby, my ball python, and the Bobby is a bamboo ball python, and if you just look at the contrast and the intensity, it's a really high contrast bamboo, and really that's what you want to do. You don't want to really just jump into a project and get something, you know, that's not a really fine example of the morph, because you're going to not only breed this with, you know, just what you're thinking of short term, you're going to breed it through your whole collection. And essentially what you're doing is you're taking the snake and reproducing it over and over and over, and then you're going to sell this snake, you know, the multiple copies of this snake from the offspring to your customers. So you also have to think about the quality, the best example of the morph. And let me tell you, if it comes to anything like pastels or like you know, I was looking at a bunch of stuff the other day. You know, clowns. I'd say there's different morphs of clowns. It's a little bit subtle of a variation. I would say like clowns, not really. I would say there's not a lot of variability between the different clowns. I'd say they're all pretty close. You know, like the pieds are kind of the same way. So if you invest in like a low white pied, I heard it was kind of, you know, it doesn't really matter if it's a high white or a low white, you still get a whole variety of the different high white and low white. So some morphs, it doesn't really matter that much, but I would say like for the bamboo and stuff like that, for the pastels, it definitely makes a big difference as far as investing in the best example of the snake. Oh, the fire, that's what I was thinking of, because I did a video on the fire, and there's a huge difference between a really low quality fire and a high quality fireball python. So I'd look at the quality. The other thing you also have to look at is the price. Let me tell you, that's probably the number one thing is, you know, so when I invest in a snake today, and I'm going to buy something today, so I'm actually going to have probably a different price range than what you would have. So if you have a lower price range, or maybe you're thinking about hets, if I have a higher price range, you know, I could buy the clown plus other stuff on top of it. So I'm thinking, I'm probably thinking, you know, probably my target range as far as the price is $1,500 is kind of what I'm looking at. So I'd probably look at Morph Market and probably max out at about $2,000, and anything below that, if I could find something around $1,500, that'd be perfect. So what I'm gonna do is let's jump over to Morph Market and do some snake shopping. All right, so I am over here on morphmarket.com, and at first I was gonna show you the ball python that I was actually gonna buy. I actually found it and picked it out, and then I was gonna kind of show you the whole process about how I found it. But then I started looking, and it looks like there is a major glitch on morphmarket.com. This is really extremely weird. I've never seen anything like this before. So originally, this was what I was looking at, an Enchi clown. And Enchi is a gene I do not have. And this one was actually a little bit less expensive. And let's see, the price on this one was actually just $500. And I was kind of looking at this because it was a gene I didn't have, and it was a really good example of Enchi that was really extremely reduced. I really like the spots all along the back. And then the interesting thing is, take a look at this. When I was scrolling down, I actually saw this snake right here, the banana Enchi clown, and this is the one I've actually contacted Mark Bailey. We've been talking about, you know, kind of arranging to buy this snake. Take a look at this one, how beautiful it is. Isn't that beautiful? How the banana just really brightens it and intensifies it. It doesn't even, you know, to me that doesn't almost even look like a clown. It is a really wild looking snake. That thing is crazy looking. I can't even believe how awesome that snake is. So that is the snake that I'm going to buy. This one's actually listed at $1,500, so it's right in the price range. But the weird thing here is I kind of wanted to show you the glitch in Morph Market. So take a look at this. We've been talking back and forth, and I started looking on Morph Market about banana inchy clowns. So essentially what I was doing is I was coming over here. This is like the home page for ball pythons on Morph Market over here. Let me zoom out a little bit so you kind of see the whole page. And essentially over here in the corner, you change your filters. So these genes over here, you can add, for example, banana over here, banana inchy, and clown. So banana inchy clown, we're looking for males for sale and go. And the problem is I don't see that snake, banana inchy clown, on Morph Market. And the funny thing is I was even going up here to the filters and doing all the sold, expired, for sale, everything. And that snake is not, it's for some reason it's posted, but it's not in the database here. So this is actually close over here, but if you look at the snake, banana inchy clown, you can kind of see it should have the same exact picture over here under banana inchy clown, and I don't see it at all. It's not even on here, which is really weird. It's like it's kind of in the system, but it's not in the searchable database, which is kind of weird. It makes me wonder when this was posted. So let me take a look at the posting date here. It was posted in April of 2019. So this is really interesting that Mark Bailey has a snake on Morph Market that you can only link to from an ad under one of his other snakes, which is really interesting, because the only place, you know, I actually wouldn't even have found it unless I saw this link with his other snakes underneath this inchy clown over here. So this is kind of interesting. And look at the difference between the inchy clown and what the banana does. I actually have coral glow in my collection, but I don't have banana, so it'll be interesting to kind of compare them side by side once I start breeding it with other stuff and kind of, you know, mixing it with the rest of my collection. So anyway, that is the glitch on Morph Market. I just couldn't even believe it. As a matter of fact, I just sent him an email and said, hey, is this the same snake we're talking about? Because it's a completely different as far as, you know, what seems like it's available here on Morph Market. So this is kind of interesting. Here's a banana inchy clown sold for $2,000. So it looks like he had one from the same guy sold for $2,000. Banana inchy blade clown. This one sold for $1,000. So kind of in the right price range. Inchy clown banana. Here's one that sold for $3,000 in 2017. The cool thing about it is I can mix it with my other clown, which has lesser, and you can get banana inchy lesser clown, which would be worth some crazy money if you hit all. I don't even know if that even exists on here. So essentially what I did, let's kind of go back to the beginning, and I'll show you how I search. So I essentially start over from the home page. And if you just look at the homepage of ball pythons here, there's 8,170 ball pythons for sale. So you have to actually sort through them somehow. And they have a filter over here. If you click on the filter, and you can actually include the genes. So what I did is I definitely wanted a clown gene. So I typed in clown, and then over here I wanted a male. And I wanted snakes for sale, and the way you should do it is go by the most expensive if you're kind of looking at the high end, or if you're looking at the low end, you could do the least expensive. But for me, there's really nowhere to set a price range, which I kind of wish there was, where I could set, you know, more options as far as, you know, setting the a price range. So I kind of like to dial in a certain price range, but it doesn't look like we have that option. So this is kind of what's available for the clowns. This is kind of what I was thinking of as far as buying into a project. So let me zoom in just a little bit more. And you can see kind of the high-end stuff here starts at about $10,000 for an A Xanthic clown. And the other thing you have to think about is when you're thinking about buying into a project, you don't really want to compete in anybody else's space. So for example, JD Constrictors here, they deal all with Xanthics. So if you bought something like this, you know, you're kind of competing with JD. For me, I kind of want something outside of what some of the big name guys are really doing, like JD Constrictors. If you look over here, for $8,000 you have the Pinstripe Batman. This is from Justin Kobilka, and he does a lot of stuff with the Batmans, which is the leopard spot nose. So I don't really want to jump into his space with the Batmans. I mean, you can, you know, but I'd rather kind of look at something a little bit more unique. And besides, a lot of these are just way out of my price range. We're still looking at $5,000, $4,500. You know, you kind of have to keep scrolling down until you hit kind of where you're maxing out on your price range. These are all $3,500, $2,800 at the bottom. So let's see if I'm even in my price range now at $2,500. This is still pretty much, you're looking at about $2,000 on the bottom here. It's still a little bit out of my price range. So if I'm looking at $1,500, you know, I don't really want to go much above $1,500. This is kind of the, let's see, we're still at $1,750. There's a lot of high-end clowns, let me tell you, page after page over $1,500. So here we're getting down to $1,600. Now we're down to my price range at the bottom here, $1,500. So you can see here's a banana Enchi clown, a new hatchling for $1,500. And kind of what I'm thinking is the one I was looking at, you can see the Enchi was really super reduced compared to this Enchi. So Enchi, I would say, is similar to like your pastels and your fires. We have a whole variety of different intensities based on the line of the Enchi. So it looks like even though this one has Enchi in it, it's not as reduced as the one I was looking at. So I really want a super reduced Enchi is kind of what sold me on that snake. And the other thing is it's definitely a new gene in my collection, so I definitely want something new. So a lot of this stuff, like for example this one, the clown head Desert Ghost, you know, I could probably make something like this because I have Desert Ghost, and so I don't really want to invest the money into something that I could potentially make, you know, 5 or 10 years down the road. So I'm looking for something new. That's kind of what sold me on Enchi and Banana. It would be kind of cool because I can compare it to my Coral Glow. And these are kind of like all in the $1,500 price range. Another thing that I was really thinking about when I decided on that particular snake versus some of these others, for example, this is a Spot Nose Butter Clown. This is a really good looking snake. And the problem with this one has a new gene in the mix. So you think, you know, Spot Nose is really cool when you mix it with clown because it just really makes the pattern and the head stamps go really crazy. But the problem is it has butter, and butter is essentially a separate line of lesser, which is in the blue-eyed leucistic complex. So if I bred this with my lesser clown female, I would potentially get a super lesser, which would be a blue-eyed leucistic worth about $3,000 because it would be a clown for sure and possibly Spot Nose in the mix. So you really don't want to make a blue-eyed leucistic that's a white snake with blue eyes that you're trying to sell for $3,000 because that would be an incredibly difficult sell, I would think. You definitely want clowns looking at least somewhat like a clown. So that pretty much throws out all of the, you know, the Russos, the Mojaves, anything in the blue-eyed leucistics. If you had like a bamboo clown, I haven't actually seen a bamboo clown, but you definitely wouldn't want to breed that back to my lesser clown female. So some of these are pretty cool. I really like how the leopard kind of gives the stripe down a lot, especially with when you mix it with a lot of stuff. I've seen like leopard lessers, and it really gives a really strong stripe down the back, which is really cool. But, you know, I don't know if I want to kind of go down the Batman kind of, you know, the leopard spot nose kind of a path. So this is kind of what I'm looking at too. This is a butter Enchi clown. So this essentially has it's similar to the butter is essentially the same as lesser. So this is kind of one of the combos that I could potentially make if I had that Enchi banana clown and mixed it with my lesser. I'd get a lesser Enchi clown, which is a pretty cool looking snake. And then here's a pastel banana clown, some really cool stuff. So another thing is for example, this snake down here, this looks really wild. So the thing that kind of killed it for me on this one is that it has a spider in it, and I really don't want spiders anymore in my collection. I have a lot of spiders, and the problem is with the head wobble, and you have a limited number of people that want to get into the spider projects, especially if you're talking about, you know, some big money, $1,500 with the spider gene in it. So, but it is a really cool looking snake, probably one of the most impressive combos I've seen, you know, kind of in the price range as far as what I'm looking for. But the spider just kind of threw it out the window for me. So let's see, let me just take a quick look on the next page, just kind of see what's over here in my price range. I can still change my mind because I haven't actually paid for that snake. I can actually get something else. Let's see, lesser fire granite. This is pretty cool. I'm not sure I want to get into the granite. So banana, I wouldn't get into the banana over here just for the sake of banana because I have coral glow, which is essentially the same. I'm looking for something different. So this one's a ghost clown, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure if I want to get into another recessive project. I'm not really big on the ghosts. I know some people really super focus on the ghosts. So a lot of this stuff, you know, here's another Enchi. I've seen a lot of Enchi in a lot of this stuff. And that's really what I'm looking for, is to get into the Enchi. I think that is going to be the snake that sells me over here. So this is, so essentially I could get an Enchi clown from the breeding, but what I really want is I want this guy right here. This is, I keep coming back to this. This is probably one of the most impressive snakes that I have seen in my price range for the price. And let me tell you, it looks like that snake in person is just going to be really, really amazing. The colors and the contrast. To me, that doesn't even look like a clown. If someone handed me that snake and said, "What's in here?" I'd be hard pressed to figure out what's in there because it's just an amazing combo. All right, so I want to give you just a quick peek at my females, and they're both eating really well, gaining some really good weight. This is my lesser clown, and I'm pretty sure this girl would definitely lay this year. She's getting some good size to her, and she's really eating like a pig. She's just pounding the rats, doing really well. Looks like she might be going into a little bit of shed because she's got a little bit of red here, but she is looking really, really good and really beefy. This is a lesser clown, so that's the lesser gene with the clown. The funny thing is when she was small, she was a lot more intense. She's really kind of faded out as she's gotten older, which is kind of interesting. And down here, this is just my straight clown female. And let me move my light over a little bit. And this girl was kind of interesting because she laid a clutch of eggs, and within the very first week she went back on food, which is really unusual for most snakes. And she's been eating quite a few rodents, so I'd say if all goes well, this snake will be big enough to breed here in a few months when I start deciding which snakes to pair up. And if I get that snake, I probably will. I'm definitely gonna, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get that 100%. I just need to make sure we have the right male, make sure that one is available and we're not talking about a different snake, but I'm pretty sure that's the one I'm going to get. And breeding that to these, let me tell you, I will get some amazing babies. Alright, so there you have it. There's nothing more exciting than adding a new snake to the collection. I'm pretty excited to get that snake, and it looks like I ordered the rack. It'll be here early next week as a quarantine rack. I'm going to put that upstairs and set that all up before I actually get the snake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-order that snake and have them hold it until I get the rack, get it all set up, get all the temperatures right and the substrate in there and everything, and then I'll go ahead and order that snake. I am really excited to get heavier into these clown projects. It's pretty awesome. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.